Singapore's rapid rise to wealth is a modern economic miracle. Within just a few decades, this small city-state transformed from a struggling post-colonial trading port with limited natural resources into one of the world's wealthiest and most developed countries. But the big question is, how did Singapore do it? The main reason why Singapore is insanely rich is because of its strategic location. Positioned at the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula, Singapore lies along the Strait of Malacca, one of the world's busiest maritime routes. This key position connects the Indian Ocean with the South China Sea, making Singapore a natural gateway for goods moving between Asia, Europe, and the Americas. Even before its independence in 1965, Singapore was already an important port in the British Empire. In the early 19th century, under British rule, Singapore was established as a free port, attracting traders from across the region. During the colonial period, Singapore's port was one of the busiest in Asia, serving as a key stopover for ships traveling between Europe and Asia. It provided crucial refueling and resupply services, making it a central point in global trade networks. The foundations during this period paved the way for Singapore's transformation into a world-class port after gaining independence. After independence, Singapore's leaders, especially Lee Kuan Yew, recognized the country's geographical advantage and worked hard to turn it into an economic strength. The government invested heavily in upgrading port facilities and expanding port capacity. Modernizing the port and adopting new technologies became a priority as Singapore aimed to handle increasing volumes of global trade. Singapore's port quickly became a key transshipment hub, linking over 600 ports in more than 120 countries. The port's efficient and well-organized operations attracted major global shipping lines. Beyond its port, Singapore's top-notch logistics, air and land transport systems further boosted its status as a major trade hub. The establishment of the Singapore Free Port, which provides secure and tax-free storage for high-volume items like art, precious metals, and luxury goods, added to the country's appeal as a global trading center. But without Lee Kuan Yew's leadership, Singapore would not have achieved any success. Like many successful countries, Singapore's achievements can be attributed to the vision and guidance of a remarkable leader, similar to the cases of China, South Korea, and other nations. His leadership was driven by a practical approach that prioritized economic growth, political stability, and disciplined governance. Lee strongly believed that good governance was crucial for building a strong nation, and his administration introduced several reforms that became the foundation of Singapore's economic success. Lee's vision for Singapore was to create a strong and competitive economy, despite the country's small size and lack of natural resources. His government introduced policies that attracted foreign investments, encouraged industrial development, and turned Singapore into a major financial center. Lee's administration focused on eliminating corruption, as it was a major barrier to progress. The creation of the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau was a key step in this direction. Singapore is probably the only country in the world to create an entire body dedicated to tackling corruption. Strict laws and harsh penalties were put in place to ensure that public officials and business leaders adhere to high ethical standards, helping build trust among investors and citizens alike. Education was a key part of Lee's strategy, as he believed a well-educated workforce was vital to Singapore's success. The government invested heavily in reforming the education system. This emphasis on education created a skilled workforce. Lee concentrated on addressing all the essential factors for a country's success. Unlike nations such as the Philippines, which is probably the most corrupt country in Asia, Lee prioritized removing corrupt elements first. A key aspect of Singapore's economic strategy for multinational corporations. Additionally, Singapore has adopted a policy of minimal trade barriers. This means that tariffs and import restrictions are kept to a minimum, allowing goods and services to move freely across borders. An expanding economy within a dysfunctional society will inevitably encounter issues that will, in turn, impact the economy. For example, even though the Philippines has a higher GDP compared to most of its Southeast Asian neighbors, the country has a lot of social problems because the government doesn't take care of its citizens. That's why the Singapore government, especially Lee Kuan Yew, has focused on more than just economic growth. It has introduced a range of policies aimed at improving social welfare. These includes extensive social housing programs, universal healthcare, and improved public services. Each of these areas plays a vital role in ensuring a high quality of life for everyone and contributes to a stable and happy society. By improving living standards through better housing, healthcare, and public services, the government helps create a more stable and satisfied population. Access to these essential services reduces financial stress for families, allowing them to focus on personal and professional growth. Additionally, by ensuring fair access to resources, the government helps bridge socioeconomic gaps and reduce issues like inequality and dissatisfaction that can come with rapid economic changes. Why do you think Singapore is an odd success story?